I really love your story about how you started in Indiana, right? So Indiana is not
Yep.
known for
Uh-huh.
creating all the tech startups in the world,
We're known
right?
for corn. All right. That's about it. Us
I've
in
been there.
Iowa, we're really reckoning in the corn industry. Yeah.
Corn for cows, right? To feed all the cows, right? That's where
Hell,
the corn
hell
goes.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's some really good sweet corn too. We rock it into sweet corn.
Yeah. So you went from Indiana, and I love this story too. SoCal to New York, and there's Apple and all these things in there. Can you tell me that story? Like, I love that story.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, so started in Indiana. It's funny. My mom's a nurse and my dad's a golf pro, and that's where we started everything off. And it's funny. So me getting into healthcare makes a little bit of sense on the nursing side of things, but I always wanted to be a golf pro. I thought that would be the coolest thing ever. And went to Ball State, played D1 golf there. It was a blast. Was pre med the whole time, and came out of there really not wanting to do pre-med the whole time, but couldn't really hit that physics section of the MCAT. So took some time, really realigned. And this is where the golf side comes in. I always noticed that the dentists would always make their tee times. And the MDs would always show up late in their scrubs, hit a drive, go down to the locker room, change, and go back out. I'm like, okay, the dentists seem to be playing golf a lot more on Wednesdays and half days on Fridays. This looks like it's going to be
And
my
how old were
profession
you?
here.
How old were you at this time?
This was like about like I was like 20,
That's
21,
pretty
right around
observant for
there.
a 20-year-old. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. And I was like, this is my profession there. So I kind of regrouped, was like, okay, I really love dentistry. I think this is really cool. It seems like patients see them a lot more as well and have a much better relationship, even though we're the ones that kind of give that jab in the mouth. They seem to be pretty good. I also remember, so I worked for an orthodontist, a pediatric dentist, and an orthodontist. I'm like, wow, the ortho people are really happy to be there. Kids are just screaming their face off, and maybe I can somehow get that in the future. So it's funny is in the meantime, trying to figure out how to get into dental school because I had to take a couple extra classes. I actually ended up down at my girlfriend at the time now ended up working for Disney down in Orlando, Florida. So I was like, I'll chill down in Orlando there, and really figured out that while I'm down there, I need a job, right? And so I ended up working at Apple. Got a job at Apple. Didn't know it was that difficult. I just walked in there. I was like, I'm gonna get a job at Apple. Let's do it. So started off at a lowly Apple retail store, and while I was there, realized that they had a huge customer problem, meaning that people would walk in and their number one complaint was, I cannot find anybody to help me, which made no sense whatsoever because I had 40 people working on the front floor and nobody could help you. No sense. So what I did is, being the pre-med, I'm like, I know how to triage people. So I set up this triage line at the front door, right? Triage people, strategically routed them around. And all of a sudden, everybody was happier. And then I figured out that people were just staying in there and playing with the toys on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what if we kind of kick people out? And they're like, wait, Ryan, no, we want them to stay in here. I'm like, guys, when somebody drops $600 on a phone, right? They don't have another 600 burning a hole in their pants to go buy a Mac, right? We need to push them out and then they'll come back later. That's just how it
Yep.
works. They get them home to play with their own device. And so what we did is we started to hold the goodie bag when we sell it to them, and we'd walk towards the front door and I'd let it go at the front door, and out the front door they'd go. And so we started to be very mindful about workflows. And it's funny because all of you are probably thinking like, damn, that's still what happens to this
Yeah.
day.
Yep.
And it is because I got to end up, Apple had this really cool thought process, and it's what we still put to play at Simplify today, that if you have a great idea, you can write it to the top,
Mm-hmm.
which is so cool because, think about it. They were still a Fortune 50 company back in 2000, 2008, because that was pre-iPhone, right?
Yep.
When the iPhone hit in 2007, we had no clue that was going to happen. We were just selling iPod touches and
Yep.
or we were selling iPod videos, right? That was the coolest thing we had in the nanos. So, when that happened, they tell you that, you're like, okay, whatever, that's bull. There's no way that happens. Next thing I know, they moved me out to Cupertino, California, because it worked so well in that Florida region. And I'm working directly for a guy named Ron Johnson, who's the SVP of Apple Retail. And I'm like, oh my God, and that all happened. I'm telling you, Gary, that happened literally in
And then who was his
inside of six
report? Who
months.
did Ron report to?
Yeah, so he reported to a guy you might know. His name's Tim Cook, and then Tim Cook to a guy named Steve Jobs.
Yep.
So it was a fun time to be there, and we got to deploy that system throughout about 300 plus retail stores worldwide, which you still experience obviously now with an iPad and some iPhones. And we had to use limo signs back in the day with markers and walkie talkies. And we used to use checkout devices that actually were pocket PCs. So I came up with this process where the other thing we did is we made everybody a checkout line, right? So this is another thing. You'll start to see like how this kind of like mirrors what we're doing with Simplifeye for all of these different practices. But, we figured out that I would, when I first started, we would take a person after selling them everything and we would move them to a checkout line and they would stand there and people get nervous. I mean, think about it. I've experienced with my wife 100 times, right? Where she will spend, an hour trying on clothes. They all look fantastic on her, but she picks 3 things and then she gets to the checkout line and then there's like 5 people in front of us. And then she'll do this thing where like you can count down like clockwork, right? 30 seconds go by and she does this thing where he goes, no. And then they all get set down and she walks out. And I'm just like, what just happened?
Lost opportunity.
Like those all look fantastic. You loved them 5 minutes ago and now they look like crap. That didn't happen. It was just like, oh, I'll buy it online. I'll and then she never buys it online. Right. And what's funny is everybody that's watching is shaking their head like, I've done that too.
Yep.
Like, that's exactly right. If she would have checked out 30 seconds faster, just 30 seconds faster, she would love all those clothes. Right. And it's the same thing at Apple. It's the same thing in healthcare, everywhere. If you can keep it there. So what we did at Apple is we started making, me the checkout line. So we were using pocket PCs at the time because Apple, they didn't have an app store yet. And it was funny. Our excuse was, sorry, it's Windows, if it would ever screw up. And it was like this like play on whatever it was. So it was the nerdy side of things. But we would do that and we would mount receipt printers underneath desks. And we would just walkie-talkie to the back to bring our stuff forward. So we started to modify that, deploy that through all the stores. And obviously you still experience now today.
Yep.
In fact, you yourself can be a checkout now. I never even dreamed of that. That's really cool. And then the other piece is that we found out that if we were too fast, your cart size dropped. So what I meant by that was we found out when we were slower in the back, this is kind of funny. This will really give you a mind warp. When we were slower in the back, you bought more stuff. So what we did is we put these platforms with timers on them. So we would set like a device on it and you would look at it and go, they could bring it out there in 10 seconds, 30 seconds, right? They could have it to you right away. You'd buy your stuff and leave. But I started to delay my people. I said, wait, give it a 3 minute window. So what you would do is you'd be talking, developing rapport, more rapport, just like it is in the practice, like with the doctors running behind.
Yep.
By the time they get there, you're best friends.
So it's similar to like the impulse aisle when you're at the grocery store, right? That you have to stand there and wait, and you end up buying the mints and the Starbucks drink for $5 and all these little things that you normally would never buy, but you're sitting there and you're standing and waiting for them, right?
Exactly. Your cart size goes up on average of $5 to $6 in those lines. And everybody's like, what? The grocery store could solve this right away and make a single queue with multiple endpoints, just like Best Buy, which it's an industrial engineer's nightmare is grocery store checkouts, right?
Yep.
It's awful. They'd be like, I can fix this tomorrow. Do you think the grocery store wants to fix that problem?
Yeah.
That's what everybody needs to think about. They're not full of idiots. Right. There's really smart people that work there. In fact, they're probably figuring out ways to slow it down more.
Yeah.
They probably try to figure out a threshold where you don't lose your mind.
Yeah.
And where you can still check out and buy that OK magazine.
Have you seen the Amazon Go stores? Have you seen
those?
Oh,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, or that's the flip end of it is where it's like, oh, you don't even pay. Like it doesn't feel like you're paying anything. So then you buy more because you just literally walk in, you scan your phone, and then they monitor you as you move in. If you put an item in, it adds it, but you don't see it. And then you just walk out and it debits your account, but you don't feel it. There's that process.
It's the best thing in the world. It's interesting. And that's, we look at those processes too. And how can we remove the sting? Right? If you can remove the sting altogether, that's the only thing better than increasing wait times, right? With practices, it's funny. Some stuff that plays in the grocery stores and in the checkout lines just don't play in the practices. Wait times are the devil in practices because I'm taking time off work. I don't want to be in there in the first place. You're hurting me. There's all kinds of different things that are play there, unless it's like a plastics practice where you're like, I'm going to look really pretty by the end of this stuff, which is awesome. So, all of those things start to come into play, which obviously we'll chat about here in a second. But I think that, we started to look at that and go, okay, what if I could increase that time? So what we do is, where is that stuff in the back? You know what? While we're waiting, have you looked at our cases? And we walk you right to the case section, and you're like, no, I haven't. Oh man, I drop my phone all the time. Show phone, show favorite case, right?
Yep.
And then next thing you know, you're walking out with a $49 case, a screen protector, and some extra headphones. You're like, what just happened to me? You know, it's very purposeful, all these workflows, when you start to think about it. But yeah, that was the fun part about that.